Welcome to the channel. Today we're covering how to understand motorcycle tyres. So to understand our tyres, we've actually got to read what it tells you on the actual tyre. Now they'll always have their own make. So this is Metzler. You do get other makes. This is a Metzler. If I spin the tyre a bit, it's a Racetech RR Slick. You can get a Metzler TD Slick. These are used for racing. There's no tread on this one. A normal Racetech tyre, so it'll just say Racetech and it won't say RR Slick, they're for road use. You can get different compounds. This is a K1, you get a K2 and a K3. Soft, medium and hard. You'll just choose which one depending on the temperature of the track and how fast you're pushing. Now as you look at your tyre, here there's a rotation arrow. This tells you that that tyre needs to go that way as it's running on the road. So when you fit it to the actual wheel, that arrow's got to be facing forward on your actual rim. So make sure that's right. With the rears, it's a bit different. With the rears, especially on a TD, you can actually spin them, no issues. You can spin slicks, but you know, some companies don't advise it. Now it does actually say on here, not for highway service. You can't use these on the road because they are actual slicks. Now this is the important part. Now this is understanding that the 120, that is the width of the tyre on that side. So as we look at it, that's your width. So if I'm gonna, I'll draw a picture just to explain. And it's from, there's your ridge. That's that part of your tyre. So that's that part. And your width is across there. So it's not measured using a floppy tape measure. It's actually measured using a straight one, and it's from that edge to this edge. And that measurement on that is 120 millimeters. Now your next one, which is 70, that's your aspect ratio. That means that from that 120, it's got an aspect ratio of 70% of 120, which means your oval of your tyre is determined about with that aspect ratio. So as you can see, it's not flat, it's got a curve on it, and that's because you've got an aspect ratio. So it's 120 across, but your aspect ratio is this curvature. That's 70% of 120. Now the 17 is a 17-inch wheel, so that's what it fits onto. You can get 16.5s, old rims of 16s. They're mainly all 17s now, so you don't really struggle with that. The R just means it's a radial tyre. Right, so what I've done is I've turned the tyre around to get some more information. Now, it gives you similar sort of information and gives you the name, the type of the tyre, and the actual size. This is what we're now looking at, which is, this is the important part. This is the date of the tyre. So this one says 3623. Now that actually means that this tyre was made in week 36 of 2023. Tyres, you don't really want to be using them after 5-year-old, and it all depends on how they're stored as well. Just be very wary about that. If you're buying tyres older than 5-year-old, that's the risk you take. Another thing to look for is this little red marking here. Now, that red marking is for when the tyre is getting installed. You can also have yellow markings. The red marking denotes that this part of the tyre is the highest part of the tyre. A yellow marking means it's the lightest part of the tyre. So some people get them mixed up and saying that's the heavy part. It is not. That's the highest part of this tyre when it was made. A yellow one is the lightest part of that tyre. So on a circle, if you got your full circle, that would be the lightest part. That part, whether it be red or yellow, always goes near your valve. Right, so what I've got here is 3 rear tyres. Now I've got 2 Metzeler and 1 Pirelli. And it's not about the makes, it's about understanding the tyre size and the ratios. So this is a Metzeler. The tyre size is a 200, 55, 17, 17-inch wheel, 55 ratio, and a 200 width. We've got a 260 17 and a 265 17. The difference between these three are the aspect ratio. And what I'm saying is, if I just turn these to the side, so I've turned it to the side, there's your 55, your 60, and your 65. Now, if you look at them, don't misinterpret the wear on them. It's the curvature, which is your aspect ratio. So that's the 55, so that's 55% to 200. That's the 60, and that's the 65. Now, if I go below, you might be able to see the difference. So even though they don't look much different, that's got more of a egg shape to it. That's a middle, and that's more of a flat. This one will actually let you turn in faster into corners, and you'll have more grip on the side, but less grip on a straight. Whereas this one, not as much grip, and it won't turn in as fast on the corner, but on the straight you'll get a lot more contact patch, and that's an in-between. And it's understanding what the aspect ratio will do to a tyre, and it's this part. Now, if I look at the bottom, if you see that, look, so that's your contact patch of a 55, and that is your contact patch on a 65. But when it comes to leaning over, that one will only be able to lean that far. I've got it bang on the corner, so that'll only be able to lean that far, whereas the 65, oh, it's still got some to go there. The 65 will be able to lean that far. Now, if I just get a comparison, so as you can see, the 55's like that, the 60's like that, but the 65's even more. And that's your aspect ratio. Your 65 will turn in quicker, but less grip on a straight. Your 55, less tip over, more grip on the straight. Now what we're going to do is try and understand the compounds. Now, there is a difference between Metzeler and Pirelli, which I'm going to go through. There is other brands as well, and it's understanding what them ones are. So here I've just wrote down the different compounds for the different makes. So Metzeler is on the left, Pirelli's on the right. Now if we concentrate on Metzeler first, now I've got the RR and the Track Day. They're both slicks. There is road tyres which is the same in the compounds. Now I've got a K0, which is a super soft, a K1, which is a soft, K2 medium, and a K3, which is hard. What this means is a K0, that one, it'll be when it's really warm, or you're trying to get a qualifying lap in. You'll use that one when it's really warm, really hot. No good in the cold because you can't keep the heat in it. Now a K0 and a K1 do cross over in the temperature ranges that they actually work. Now a soft, a K1, you'll also use when it's warm, but because a K1 and a K2 also mix, you can use this when it gets a little bit cooler. So from it being hot, where you can use a K0, you can use a K1. As it gets cooler, you can also use a K1 because this, it'll not be hot, but it'll be average. I'll call that average temperature, right? And then obviously we've got the K3, which is hard, and that's when it's used in the cold. So you can cross these, but I wouldn't use a K3 when it's really warm. Now, the K0, I'll put that as hot, not warm, just to make that difference. Yeah. Qualifying tyre. Now, these two tyres here are the ones you're going to use more often while racing. That's mainly on your qualifier these are the ones that are going to, your K2 is going to last longer than a K1 because of the compound, but a K1 and a K2 very similar, but you'll get a bit more grip from your K1 and a bit more life from your K2, and that's from the Metzler. What I will say is your TD, so your RR, that will wear quicker than your TD slicks. Now when it comes to Pirelli, a totally different concept of their tyres. Now I've got Pirelli Supercoursers. Now your fronts, you've got SC0, 1, 2, 3, and your rears, you've got an SCX, 0, a 1 and a 3. When it comes to your fronts, you've got an SC0, which is a super soft, SC1 is a soft, 2 is a medium, and 3 is a hard. It's the same, apart from you have an FCX, which is a qualifying tyre. And then you've got your 0, your 1, your 2, your 3. The difference between a Pirelli and a Metzler, your fronts are the opposite. As in, this super soft is when it's cold. So you need to use an SC0 when it's cold, and the hard you use when it's hot. Now that's only on the front. On the rear, it is normal where you're qualifying, you'd use that as your hot, and this would be your cold. So your SC0 will be cold, but your SCX is when it's red hot. Same as your super soft when it's hot, when it's warm, average, and that's when it's cold. The only difference being your front tyres are opposite to your rear tyres on Pirelli. On Metzler, they're the same, whether it be your front or your rear, they work the same. It's just Pirelli have your fronts doing opposite to what your actual rears do. Well, I hope I've helped you to understand your tyres a little better. Now, what you will have to do is, over time, you will get used to the different compounds as you're using them, and you'll be checking the weather, you look at the wear on the tyre. Your average ones, your SC1s, your SC2s, that's your most common tyres, same as on the Metzler. Your K1, you'll probably use a K1 more than anything on your Metzler. Everyone's different and everyone uses the tyres differently. I hope I've helped you. Think about your ratios. Do you want it to turn in quicker, or do you want more grip on the straight? Totally up to you. If this has helped you, please give me a subscribe, drop me a like. Catch you later.